Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Endless Celts Podcast. The Legion of Doom is back. Me and Willie, he's in Graces. I'm in a kitchen, all well and good. I think you're pinted as well, aren't you, Willie? How you doing?
I got a couple of beers there, mate. I needed it. When the weather's out, I can't help myself. I'm doing really well, mate. Nice weekend. We had our gala day this weekend there. Spent time with my nephew, my daughter, and all the rest of it. So it was really good. Sun was shining. The only thing that ruined it was a terrible football match that was on. That was meant to be the pinnacle of our sport, and it was an absolute dross to watch. But never mind. How was your weekend, mate?
It was good, mate. Went out with Big Ram, who's been on the podcast before. Went to the Fallons up in the falls and stuff, and good crack and that. The first time I'd been up there, like, it was an amazing atmosphere. Like, the match itself, the Champions League was a bit the damp squid. Do you know what I mean? It really was. I thought, to be fair, Inter Milan probably could have had 2 or 3 goals, only for Lukaku missing sitters and blocking shots on the line. And I don't know what he was doing when he came on, but I think they made a big mistake when he came on. But as you said, we're here. We're going to talk about Celtic. The sun was shining. But Willie, I have to ask you first, because I know how much you love Postecoglou, how much you love the big cuddly giant teddy bear, as you used to describe him, the big pillow. You even had a pillow with his name on it and his face on it. I mean, we're a week on. I think it was a week last week. It was announced that he left Celtic, or Tuesday. He left Celtic as the manager, and he's went to Spurs. Have you settled your anger, or have you got over your emotions? What way are you feeling?
I have. This is actually the first time I've been on since the news broke. So it'll be interesting tonight to talk about what we're going to do going forward. But yeah, I've went through all the stages of grief. I was absolutely devastated at first, even though after the cup final, and I was hanging over the cup final, and then in a way it kind of ruined it a wee bit of the game, the spectacle itself, not the day, because we had an absolute blast, all the boys here, but it kind of ruined the final as a spectacle, because it was kind of looming over it, and then all the interviews and everything afterwards, it was just everything was pointing that he was gone, even though I refused to believe it beforehand. So yeah, I was sad. I was upset for a couple of days, and then that turned to anger, and I couldn't come on the podcast because I was so fucking angry. Yeah, all the sad stuff turned to all that badge thumping and all the rest of it. Yeah, Aussie so and so, away you go. And then it's kind of turned, which is strange, and I know we'll talk about it later, but it's strange because I never had that with Rodgers. I was never one that called him a rat or the rest of it. I understood it, and I do understand now. It's an opportunity for Ange. I understand totally why he's gone, and I've kind of made peace with it now. And to be fair, I hope he does well. I hope he goes, because this league gets bad crack down there, and I think with his style, if he gets the right clientele in down there, he'll tear it up. So all the best to him. And now, as usual, the club moves on. People come and go. We'll still keep going strong, and hopefully the next man that comes in will do a wonderful job as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think I enjoyed keeping you going all that Saturday, watching you crack up at me. It was funny. Every time I was whispering to you, Postecoglou's away, and you're like, no, he's not. But it's great to see McGrand in the comments. New profile picture as well, holding up his Lisburn Lion memorabilia from the 1967 final, which evidently we beat Inter Milan in as well. So, Man City, plastic club, they've joined us in that feat, but we're the real achievement. We're the real Lisburn Lions. Unbelievable achievement. People are in already in the comments. Craig White, the lads, and evening, guys. John McCauley, all right, boys. Ange Thomas. Who's Ange? We don't know. Danny, 25 degrees outside, and Willie is wetter than a Jedi. What? Alistair Jack, evening, boys. I mean, as you said, we're going to discuss people who could come in, right? And the name of everyone's lips at the minute. And obviously, I know who that is in terms of Brendan Rodgers. But before we get to that point, there's obviously a few other managers that have been linked. And there's been talks held, face-to-face talks, if you believe the media. There's an Italian manager, which I don't have on the list, but if anyone's seen last night, it broke very late on via certain newspapers that we had face-to-face talks with him. I think he's 34. Michael Nicholson, Chris Mackay went on the famous private jet that no one actually ever sees over to Mallorca, the visit Brendan Rodgers on a wee holiday. Air Force One. I don't need it if they don't get the appointment right. They need to be hid. But a name as well that's kind of creeped up in the betting odds and up with the likes of Brendan Rodgers and certain other names, which I'm going to come on to, is this guy. I'll bring him up here. It's Enzo Maresca. Currently, at the moment, he is the Manchester City number 2. He has worked under Pep for a couple of years now. I think he was in charge of their under-23 side, and he was the first person in charge of that side to win the Premier League 2, which is their reserve league. Then he went to Parma from achieving that feat. He had 14 games. He lost 4, drew 4. No, he won 4, drew 4, lost the other amount of games he was in charge. Then he went back to Manchester City with his tail between his legs, and now he's Pep's number 2, his understudy. Now, I've seen a lot of people. I'm going to obviously come on to how I feel, but they kind of give it a bit of weight behind it. People like Robert Snodgrass and I kind of disappeared the comments there. Where did they go? People like Robert Snodgrass haven't given him credit, saying he's the real deal. He worked under with different clubs, and you see the odd snippets here and there. But you kind of get that always, really, about assistant managers, don't you? That they're the next big thing. I mean, it was only a few months ago we took the piss out of a certain Michael Beale being called up from the understudy of Steven Gerrard's camp, and he was hailed as the next big thing. Postecoglou took care of him and slapped him about. Then you hear Enzo Maresca being linked with this job. I personally think this is the most lazy link. It's the most kind of easy one to make because of Mark Lawwell, because of the connection with the City Group. And yeah, I know people could point to Postecoglou as being a success, but Postecoglou had a background in management, and he won things in Japan. He won things with the Australian national team. He won things really early on with Brisbane Roar, and he changed the kind of style of play that they played for a whole century, to be fair. What do you think about this Enzo Maresca link? And by the way, I'm saying his name right, so I'm proud of myself for that one.
I know. You've done well, mate. It's interesting because a lot of you guys, a lot of the guys in the pod, yourself included, have been like, have had quite strong opinions on this link, and I've kind of sat back because the reason I kind of sat back and haven't had an opinion is because I don't really know what I think about it, to be honest with you. He's looking like one of the front runners. He's never away from the top of the betting odds, and he was linked when Ange was brought in as well. I totally understand what all you guys are getting on it, and I do, and I agree with you in the fact that he's got next to no experience being a number one, and the little experience that he has as a number one, he hasn't been successful at all. But I think if we were going to bring him in last time out when we actually took on Ange, I'd be screaming at the rafters like a lot of you guys because the situation we were in at the time, and it was a total rebuild. But because Ange has left us in such a strong position, we're in as strong a position now as we have been in however long. If you're ever going to take a chance on one of these guys, I think now is probably the time. I'm not saying that I would. Everybody talks, and I know we're going to touch on a few others, but everybody talks about the Bodo Gaffer and all the rest of it having a similar style of play. Well, this guy obviously is the same. It seems like he's got rave reviews from everywhere. He's going to be coming into a club that's on the ascendancy. It's not in the demise that it was in when Ange came in and had to turn it around. He's in it where it's a good place, and he's not needing to. All he's needing to do is make a few additions here and there, put on his style of play, which is, for what I hear, similar to Ange. I don't know too much about him, and he won't go far wrong. So I think if you're going to bring somebody in like that, and to be fair as well, because I say this, we did this with Ange, but we're giving him a chance in the limelight. I was going to say he's not as likely to jump ship, but that's not true. If a big club comes on, he's away. But I just think that, and I'm not saying that I would take him, and I'm not saying he's anywhere near my number one choice, but I think if you're going to give somebody like that a crack at the job, I think now would be the time to do it because we're in such a good position. But for me, if it's my choice, it's a no.
I think, Willie, like Charles Smith, for me, he nails it here. As a manager ever had it so good coming to the Celtic. Now, you said there, I'm going to push back on you. Obviously, like a bit of disagreement in this podcast. Yeah. It's been a while because Postecoglou brought us all together. Now we're all kind of fragmented back into our wee stations again. But I think if you were going to give Enzo Maresca the job, it would have been the time when we gave Ronnie Daly the job. That type of project appointment when the pressure wasn't off, but you were going to win the league and you were probably going to win a cup here and there. This time for me, we don't need to give someone a chance. We shouldn't be a club where someone gets their first proper job. I know he had Parma, but his Parma stint was an absolute joke. And let's be fair, coming into Celtic, his winning ratio off the bat should be better than that anyway, the 16 games. So regardless of that, it's going to look better in a sense. But I think Maresca, to me, is that guy you take the punt on. If all else fails and you kind of go, here, we'll take him and we'll see how it goes. It's like changing the direction of the club. Do you know what I mean? I mean, you looked at Postecoglou when he came in 2 seasons ago, and we were all going, who's this? And some of us are a bit ignorant, myself included, and we were like, what's going on here after going from Eddie Howe to him? Yeah, 100%. And the fan base as well, even pundits. But the thing with Postecoglou, as I said, he had the experience. He cut his teeth in 25 years of management. And Maresca, to me, is like a Michael Beale. Lara said it. His name's been mentioned. He's like a Michael Beale. You're kind of hoping it sticks, and he's going to bring that philosophy of Pep Guardiola over to Celtic. And it's not as simple as that. And it's going to sound a bit disrespectful. He can put out a few cones, really, and blow a whistle and tell them what to do. But it's totally different when you're in charge of an institution like Celtic Football Club. And for me personally, we shouldn't be anyone's kind of first go. Do you know what I mean? It seems a bit like, as Charles said there, we're in the best position we've been in years. We've got guaranteed Champions League football. We've got a reported £30 million transfer kitty. We're going to improve at Annex Town. We're going to do all these sorts of things. Then I think that's a bit drastic going, here, Enzo, do you fancy it?
No, I do agree with you, mate. Like I said, it's not for me, and I'm actually surprised. I don't want to say too much about my thoughts until we go through all the names, but I'm so surprised because, like you say, we're in as good a spot as we've ever been in recent times. Anyway, the stock is high. It's an unbelievable, exactly, bang on, Corvo. It's as attractive a job as it ever has been. So I'm so surprised at the list. I think there should be bigger names on there, and we should be looking at bigger names. But it's a surprise to me. Maresca's kind of like it seems to me it's like a player. You're buying in one of these players, you're developing them, and then you're punting them on for bigger money. It just kind of seems that way to me. But it wouldn't be my choice. But like I said, I'm trying to come from the other angle because we're in such a good place. It's not like we're in dire straits and we need to get out. And I think that the board would be looking for a coach first and foremost, and that is what he is.
He's an outright coach, 100%. But again, does that maybe come with a structure change, like me and Ross spoke about on Friday? Could that be a director of football? No way. Chelsea called head coach. Could that be that type of role? I don't know. But coming to the comments, Alistair Jackley, thankfully never seen Liam Brady. I have no recollection whatsoever. I know he was a bad manager. He was, wasn't he? Corvo, as you said, Celtic isn't attractive right now for anybody. Paul Dad comes in. Sometimes the manager would rather come into a shit show where they can build their own team. This team doesn't need much done, and just want to travel. Fought gig for a new manager. Yeah, 100%. I think that's what we're saying. And it's no disrespect to Enzo Maresca.
It's similar to when Lennon came in after Rodgers. To be fair, he came in and it's like, what do you change? We're absolutely it's so. In that sense, is it an attractive job? When Lennon came in, I remember the first 3 or 4 months he actually said, I'm not doing much. John Kennedy's taking it because we're just keeping on doing what Rodgers. He actually came out and said that in the media.
I know.
John Kennedy's I'm just taking John Kennedy's lead because we're kind of just rolling on with what Brendan did because, like, why would we change it? Because we're steamrolling everybody. So in that sense, a new manager want to come in, stamp their style on the side, totally take us in a new direction when what we've experienced over the last 2 years is as good as we've ever seen footballing wise at Celtic Park. Maybe it's not as an attractive feat as we all think.
But that's where it comes in to me. If you're going to stick to that style of play, it's vital you get a manager in who can just guide that process and play similar football. Like if you get, I know we're going to come on different names, but if you get a manager who's set in his ways, plays like one route football or 4-4-2 or whatever, that's not going to suit the current playing staff. Do you know what I mean? But we'll come on to different names, and the next one here, The next one for me, anyway, like I don't know. I think in the comments, these are all mentioning him. Should we bring him home, Willie? It's the man who could sell you anything. He'd be a cracking salesman. It's the Brendan Rodgers, the invisible travel. Look at him there with that scarf. You think he would never leave us? Well, oops, he did. But it's for me, it's like as well with Brendan. He's the best name available, in my opinion. He is the one with the most kind of attraction. And I know you said there the list. The list for me is disappointing. I thought we would have numerous managers, loads of managers coming in. We probably do, but we're not getting to know that list for the bookies at the minute. But with Brendan Rodgers, it's like you go back to when he left. Yeah, we were all raging, right? But really, there's no major difference between him and Postecoglou. Postecoglou stayed the season, but as I said last week, if Postecoglou had that offer during the season to go to the Spurs, I firmly believe he would have took it. That's no issues here. With the Brendan one, it was the shock factor. We played Motherwell, and 2 days later he was off skiing to Leicester. But you can't discount what he done. He won 7 out of 7 trophies, and in fact, back-to-back travels. One of them was unbeaten. Guided us basically halfway through the travel season until then he came in. And coming back, Willie. Well, I know we're going to probably get stuck into this. Like the comments already are picking up. You can see it yourself. What do you think about Brandy coming home?
Bring him home, mate. he's the only one on the list that excites me. That gives me the tinge. I understand people's thoughts on him when he left before. I've said it in this podcast 100 times whenever we talk about him, and his sort of legacy's been like hanging with the way he left. But I was never one that called him a rat or hated him, or I understood it. There's certain people, including Ange, very ambitious people, and they want to go and move on to the top. And I can understand when he was here, he'd done everything apart from do well in Europe. Again, like Ange, he needed, for me, he needs to go further in Europe. But other than that, he's absolutely dominated. Again, before Ange came in, that was as good as I've ever seen football at Celtic as well. I totally understood why he left. It didn't hurt. Like, I was devastated when he left. Don't get me wrong. I was absolutely devastated. But I said to you guys that last week, I was like, this, for some reason, Ange hurts more. And I don't know if it's because Brendan came in as a big name. Yeah.
Bingo, Kevin.
And I kind of thought that when Brendan came in, it would be short-lived. I think subconsciously I always thought there's going to be a time where he's going to go. And I think with Ange, I thought that he would have been in for a long haul. And I think that's why it hurt more last week when I found out that he had left. I knew that there would be coming a time where Rodgers would go. So I've never had any ill feeling towards him. He's given me some of my greatest moments as a Celtic fan. Some of my favourite memories are winning the trebles and watching it with my mates and celebrating with my dad and all the rest of it. Some of my greatest memories. So I was always one of the fans that was sort of, and if you go back and watch or listen to the podcast, you'll see that I said it. There was never any ill feeling from me. I was just grateful for what he gave us because it was complete domination, and that's carried on. It's carried on. Apart from that one season, it's carried on, and it was him that started all that winning mentality, brought that winning mentality back. And like I say, for me, out of that list, I know we're going to go and talk about the others, and it's getting a bit ahead of myself, but he's genuinely the only one that excites me. And I think that if we go for somebody other than him, I'll be, and if the opportunity's there and he's willing to come back and we don't go for him, I would be so disappointed.
We're all beautiful human beings, as
I've
Rodgers
actually been
would say.
looking. I was trying to fish out my Brendan Rodgers mask that I got the wife, just in case there's an announcement.
Can you clarify why you got the Rodgers mask for the wife?
I got it for a Christmas one year. I can't say any more than that.
Oh, Jesus, I'll let that one.
Tell me I've got great character.
Oh, wow, that's what you're into.
I was trying to find it so that if there is an announcement this week, but I couldn't find it anywhere, so I'm going to have to buy a new one just in case he comes back. But he's sunning up in Mallorca, getting that tan sorted, just ready to come back for us this summer.
100%. Like, Danny comes in here, right? Let's talk about the past a wee bit, right? Ange was just as bad as Rodgers with the calling of the fans. Now, I think Celtic content and Celtic podcasts and even news outlets have covered kind of the bad kissing and the thumping of the chest. But let's get into it, Willie.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, the term fickle gets used, right? And I'm not trying to tar everyone with the same brush here. But if Rodgers came back and he said, just for example, and he's probably never going to say it, but I made a mistake leaving to go to Leicester. I love this club. I'm coming here to show what we're worth again, make us a force. You'll get tweets the next day. He gets it. He gets Celtic Football Club.
Yeah,
he
totally.
loves it. So, I mean, he's back again. He's back with a vengeance. So, do you think, like, I know Postecoglou done it right, and he quoted Tommy Burns in every press conference. He had the media on toast, and with Rodgers as well, telling stories about McGrain, giving him a tracksuit at Lennoxtown to get stuck in with training, all that type of stuff. And he knows the dinner lady's son's daughter, who knows the uncle's pet goldfish, and all that type. Do you know what I mean? It's all kind of for the manager to settle himself in and make the support kind of galvanise around him. And I have no doubt in my mind the past will be quickly forgot if we go to Ibrox and thump them, for example, 6-2.
Oh, yeah.
Or go unbeaten till we play them. So I get what people mean. Me personally, I held a grudge for a long time. I didn't care what he done at Leicester City. I'm not going to care what Postecoglou does at Spurs. He's nothing to do with us no more. But he's a manager who's available. He's available. People say at the right time. This could be the right time for him to come back. He said it in 2019. He would like to come back to us one day, but only if the time is right. See the argument about the past and him leaving like he did. I get it 100%. But are you thinking along the same lines, Willie? If he comes back in and he gets the League Cup, the first trophy on offer, it'll be quickly forgot about.
100%. I think a lot of these fans that were hurling abuse, I've already forgotten it at the thought of the prospect of him coming back. To be honest with you, he's an absolute world-class coach, and he worked wonders with us. And I know I said at the start about how I went through the anger stage with Ange and the badge thumping and all that, and it's the same with. I never went through the anger stage with Rodgers, but I don't like all this. And I understand why people think it, but I believe all that. I still believe Ange has a love and affinity for this club. I don't think he did that just to, get the fans on side. I truly believe that he has a love and an affinity for this club. I don't think he would have done that otherwise. And the same with Rodgers. Yeah, I totally. Everybody's giving it. Oh, you were a Celtic fan. You're a Celtic fan. All that. You've given us all this nonsense. No, he is a Celtic fan. He loves this club. But I think sometimes it's his career, remember, and like sometimes you've got to go with your head rather than your heart. And there was a lot of stuff going on with the board at that time with him, and he wasn't getting as he pleases. Saying that, I just came in with
nobody,
and he's getting players for next to nothing, and didn't complain. Well, not to the press or anything anyway, but I do think it was a bad spot for Brendan, and I can understand why it leaves a sour taste in people's mouths. But if you take your heart away from it, then I don't think and he's thinking with his head. I understand why he made that decision at that time, and I thought it was funny in that 2019 interview when he says, "Yeah, I would definitely go back to Celtic, but it's all about timing." And I thought, well, the Leicester stuff wasn't a very good timing, was it, mate? So I thought that was funny, but I genuinely believe he loves this club, and I totally believe him when he said he would come back in a heartbeat, and yeah, like I said, he does love the club. I just think that at that time it was a difficult relationship he had with the board, and I totally understand why he went at the time, because, like I said, if he's thinking with his head and not his heart, then it was a no-brainer for him in the situation he was in. And I think it is good timing now. And by the way, he did a great job with Leicester. He got them fifth twice in a row, just missed out in the Champions League. And all these teams round about him are spending hundreds of millions, and he was getting next to nothing in that budget either. So he's a top coach. I mean, look at what he did to James Forrest when he first came in. Forrest was the whipping boy, all the Celtic fans, and Rodgers turned him into a monster. So, for me, there's only one choice. I would throw everything at Rodgers to get him in. And if he's not, I think it's scraps that are left. To be honest with you, I'm really disappointed with the bookies list that's in for the.
It's the same old, isn't it? It's the dusty names off the shelf. But I want to come to Chris M here. If Rodgers returns, two things have to happen. His ego has to be left at the door, and secondly, the board must back him fully for his tenure. Ross came in with a comment as well. The board didn't share his ambition to go to the next stage in Europe. Lawwell signed Schwed without a say so. The working relationship broke down. He was offered a way out and took it.
100%.
See with the board then. Now, for me, this is like the crux of it. I would believe he would have to get assurances from Michael Nicholson, Chris Mackay, and Dermot Desmond that certain individuals, we all know Peter Lawwell kind of went behind his back in a kind of sneaky way, getting players over the line when he didn't want them. He made that perfectly clear. Do you think he would be seeking that assurance that the people, how would you say, on top of him won't get involved with the transfer dealings? I mean, Postecoglou was solely in charge of it, so the model works.
I think.
Do you think he'd want that same kind of assurance that he would get that as well?
I think you've nailed it, mate. I think when he says, again, going back to that interview where he says timing is everything, this board did exactly that way, and they backed him to the hilt. He was in sole charge, and I think they would need to give him. I think they would need to give him the same assurances, and if they do, I've no doubt in my mind that he would jump at the chance. But again, it would need to be right for him as well as a club. And I'm sure all the rumours that are going about, I hate rumours, and that's why I hate all this stuff. But if the rumours are true, I'm pretty sure that's what's been thrashed out at the moment. And I hope to God it is, and I hope to God it goes the right way.
Well, I thought it was pretty telling that it was Michael Nicholson on the plane and not Peter Lawwell. Do you know what I mean? I think that shows. I know we know Lawwell's involved in a non-executive chairman role, but he has a say in certain issues of Celtic Football Club. Do you know what I mean? We're not naive not to believe that.
Yep.
But the fact that to go over for these face-to-face talks, it was Chris Mackay and Michael Nicholson, I thought was pretty telling. Do you know what I mean? Because they're the ones now front and face of the club and negotiating them contracts. And I mean, Charles Smith, as Celtic fans, all we want is a winning team on the park. 100%. And can I say, by the way, I'm loving all the interaction with people in, new faces. The Baldy Trucker from the Celtic Supporters Podcast is in as well. Good to have you along, buddy. So just get involved. The interaction's piling in. 94 watching live. Give us a thumbs up. Let's boost it up. Get up to 80, get up to 90. What's it called again? The algorithm? Yeah, push us along somewhere and that. Get more people watching. But
pretty sure it's last half or signing.
Algorithm? Apparently he's a ball playing left side of centre back.
Six,
incredible. But in terms of the Rodgers thing as well, we have to understand. You mentioned players. Look at Cal McGregor under Rodgers. That was probably his best couple of seasons. You looked at Brown, who was down and out. Do you know what I mean? And he brought him back to an elite level when he was 32, 33, 34. You look at Forrest, double figures each time Rodgers was in charge.
Rodgers,
so I mean, he improved. Rodgers, yeah, he improved players no end. Even Craig Gordon was brilliant under him, and Kieran Tierney there for a record fee. So he can develop and sell players. And you look at the likes of obviously Hatate, Kyogo, Jota, Abada, who may be feeling unsettled. But for me, Rodgers, I don't know about you, Willie, is that probably on the crappy list that we've talked about, the only person who could come in and maybe convince them to give another year or a half a year to stay, improve, and develop, and push them on for a massive sell-on.
He's the only one on the list for me that would mean that we're not taking a step backwards from Ange. You've just nailed it there about his coaching. I think that's his forte. I mean, at Liverpool he brought through Sterling, and he's a coach first and foremost. And the young players always end up. Like I said, when he came in and Forrest was the whipping boy, and he turned him into a monster. Can you imagine what he would do to the likes of Abada and Jota and all the rest of them? I honestly think he would work wonders. And like I say, it's all the other names on the list. I just feel like after Ange, it would be a step backwards. And for to get Rodgers in, it's the only one. It's the only name for me that excites me, and I think would soften the blow of Ange going. I don't think that is a step backwards at all. I think he plays just as exciting football, and I think he's got that same winning mentality that he instilled before Ange came in. Because before then, we talk about all these trebles, and it's before then it wasn't happening. Even with the mob on the other side of the city weren't in the division, and we should have been running away with trophies, and we didn't at the time because it's not easy. But yeah, aye, absolutely. But Rodgers brought that winning mentality back, or brought it to the forefront, because before then we had 2 trebles, and now we're sitting on 8. He started all that. I know you hear the stories about the winning mentality when he first come in, and there's in the training there's like something as silly as in the training facility there was a light out, and he's like, "Why is that light out? Get that sorted." Just wee things like that. Yeah. What more can I say? This is, for me, it's the only choice. I think you should be chucking everything at him. Again, it needs to be right for the club, though. When I say chucking everything at him, it's not just all his way. There needs to be the club comes first. But yeah, for me, it's the only. I know we're going to talk about the others, but for me, it's the only choice that's there. That's I would be disappointed if it's anybody bar him now.
I think you made that pretty clear with the list. But in terms of, Alistair Jack asked a question a couple of comments ago. I think you've probably seen it as well. Do you think Rodgers is getting or inheriting a better team than he did when he first took over from Ronnie?
So the team that he inherited or the team that he built?
I think he means first walking through the door.
Yeah, this is a much better team. Yeah, he built a mad, like the team he built with Dembele and Sinclair and the guys he brought in. That would be a full podcast talking point. But the team that he walked into, this team is no doubt better than that team that he walked into. He built a fantastic side, but the team that he's got now is by far better.
I'll have to take into account as well. Rodgers improved them players to make them an unbelievable team, especially in that first invisible season. But we spent 20 minutes talking about Rodgers, and we spent 10 minutes talking about Maresca, and that included the intro. So we kind of know where our favours lie in that one. And I think everyone, maybe bar my Uncle John, who's in the comments, and a couple of other people, don't want Rodgers, but the majority, what I can see, would be happy with Rodgers through the door. And I think as well, you have to take into consideration every manager now, regardless of where you come from, if you're a young up and coming coach, you're going to look at us as a stepping stone. Mm-hmm. You have to be aware of this. It's a 2 to 3 year cycle. There's no more manager going to come in now and do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years.
So do you think Rodgers is in that frame of mind now? He's at a different point in his career. Do you think that he's
he'll be one?
Long run this time?
Nah, what's the long run? What's the long run, Willie?
Managerial career? I don't know. 4 or 5 years.
Yeah,
but if an opportunity came, say for example, I don't know, who's a lower league? Southampton got relegated. Who else is in there? An Everton or something like that. See if an Everton came falling in 2 years, do you think he would seriously consider it? Or I just think he's at a point in his career now where maybe that's not. Yeah, I don't know. I think the biggest difference between Ange and Rodgers for me as well, though. Ange is obviously an absolute genius tactician, and the football we played under him is, for me, the best I've seen. But I don't know if it's just me. For what I'm hearing, I don't think Ange was particularly not approachable is not the word, but you know, I hear a lot of players saying like, "Oh well, he's got an aura about him." We didn't have really that relationship. It was the first team coaches and all the rest of it. Mm-hmm. Rodgers is the complete opposite. He's the one that puts a hand around you and one-on-one time and coaches you. I don't think. Obviously, I've not been privy to the training, but for what you hear from players, even in the training about the dressing room, and he says that's not my domain, that's Callum McGregor's, which is great. But it felt like, and every interview I've seen with a player, it's like, no, we didn't have that. It was, I'm your boss, and there's not that relationship. I think Rodgers is the polar opposite. So I think that can benefit players like Abada. Abada's a prime example. Who? Stephen.
Oh, fuck's sake, Willie. Fucking hell, man. Fucking hell.
I think that's what the biggest thing is. I think the likes of Jota and Abada, as much as, I've not got a bad word to say about Ange. What he did for this club is unbelievable, and these players he's brought in. But I do think that the likes of Jota and Abada could blossom even more under the likes of Rodgers, where he's one-on-one coaching in his time and arm around the shoulder, rather than this. Ange was a very, not a dictatorship, but it's like I'm the boss and you're this and that's it. I think they could flourish under Rodgers.
Well, I mean, you've seen it with yourself. I mean, the biggest example is Scott Brown. He was done, and he put his arm around him, gave him a plan, and he stuck to it, and he was incredible for us for the next 2 seasons, 3 seasons.
Years, by the way.
Yeah. And he developed into that sitting midfielder, and there was, I mean, in Scottish football domestically anyway, there was nobody better doing that. Do you know what I mean? He was just fantastic at it, and he had some cracking games at in Champions League level. But to touch on what you said, right, Rodgers has an ego, and we all know this. So I think from the outside, he's looking at this going, Postecoglou got to move the de facto top 6 team in Spurs. Mm-hmm. Now in the back of Rodgers' mind, he knows he doesn't have to hold out for the kind of pish, kind of lower teams and going to a Leicester or going to a Brighton. He knows if he does well, a top 6 club would maybe come calling, or a game we're being naive to think like a Bundesliga, a Serie A, La Liga team wouldn't come calling. Because you said there are managerial terms at a life cycle 4 to 5 years. I mean, outside of the norm, you're looking at Diego Simeone at Atletico, and I know people are saying Knutsen, the Baldy trucker, said Kjetil Knutsen at Bodo Glimt, we're going to come on to him. He's been there for like 7 years, and there is managers with long-term kind of goals at a club and they want to settle down. But I just think at Celtic, that's probably outside the realms of possibility. And
yep.
And Rodgers for me would be looking at the Postecoglou situation and going, if he gets Spurs, what can I get? And it's not a bad way. It's not a bad way to think. It's not a bad way.
I don't think he would, because I think he's got a reputation that he could. I thought when the Spurs job became available, he was nailed on for it, because I think that he's already got that reputation. I don't think he needs to come and prove himself at Celtic again to go on and do that. So I'm not so sure about that, to be honest with you, mate. I think he's already got. That would be brilliant, but I don't think I think he wants to be a manager. I keep seeing that Brown's maybe got to come in. I think he's happy where he is playing his trade. I don't think he'll move for there. He seems very happy. But I don't think Rodgers needs to do that to prepare himself. I think he's already got that reputation. I think he could get a Spurs. I honestly thought he was nailed on before Ange got it. I thought Brendan was nailed on for the job. So I think he's already got that reputation. I don't think he needs to come into Celtic to say, if I'm successful, I can go on and do this. I think every world football knows what he can do, and I think he could walk into one of these jobs no problem. So I think it's a different dynamic this time round.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. The different dynamic for me is his reputation isn't broke. He had to basically come to us first time and kind of fix it. Obviously, what happened in Liverpool, where he did a really good job at Leicester, and transfer fees and all came into it. In the 4th season, they weren't backing him. They didn't have a centre back for ages. So there's all the different factors. But again, Brendan Rodgers seems like a strong character, a strong guy to come in. The bookies have suspended betting
I know.
on all of them. He's a beautiful human being. But we'll come on to a couple of other names here. Next on the list, probably not going to happen now, but I just want to discuss him anyway because he was mentioned heavily earlier on in the week, is the Europa League conference winner for West Ham, and that was Davy Moyes. Look at that photo. He's rocking the shades. Look at that.
Shagger, man.
That's top quality photo there. That cup is lovely. I've seen someone said it looks like a lamp from IKEA. But in terms of Davy Moyes, I mean, probably be a quick one on this, to be fair. That for me would have been the wrong direction, because we're speaking about style of play, style of players. So you look at his West Ham team, they're 6 foot plus, they're giants. I mean, Souček and Declan Rice and Antonio up top. The Moyes, he's forged a fantastic career in England. Maybe at United, maybe too early for him. I think that was a bit unfair. Then he went to Real Sociedad, up and down type of time. Came back. Now he's kind of thriving under West Ham. He's done with the last season. I think he got them up to 6th. And he's won a European trophy, which isn't to be sniffed at. But do you think that time will ever be right for Moyes to come in? We know he's keen to manage someone in Scotland. He hasn't said who. People are thinking the national team, his connection with Celtic. But do you think his time will ever come?
No. I think that he's very old school at Celtic anyway. But he's a very old school of thinking. I think that his time to come in would have been, like Strachan, Mowbray era, that type of time, because that's the sort of football we were playing then. I think it's too far gone now for him, to be honest with you. I think that if he's going to do anything in his own country, it could possibly be the national team. But I think he's very happy at West Ham. I think he's doing a good job there. So I don't think he's going to pull himself away from there anytime soon. But I think it would be a massive backward step because of he's not going to play the football that we've been playing and the football that we're all excited by and we've been so used to the last however many years under Rodgers and then Lennon for a bit and Ange. So, I don't see it. Like I say, if there was ever a time when his stock was a bit higher, I think it would have been round about that Strachan Mowbray era that he might have fitted in with the team and how we played football back then. But I think it's 10 years too late for Moyes to come to us, to be honest with you. Like I say, if there is an opportunity in the Scottish game, I think it might be if Steve Clarke ever decides to step aside, David Moyes might be an option for that job. I think he would do well with Scotland the way that Scotland like to play football. Obviously, we're not the best footballing side, although that's changing recently. I think he would maybe, that's my exact point for Scotland.
I think I think if someone to come in and replace Clark, a certain style of play with Scotland, he's perfect for it.
Yeah,
I think he's built for that type of management.
Yeah, I agree. I just like I say, I think it's 10 years. I think it's 10 years too late for Moyes, unfortunately for him.
Yeah, I just want to address one thing here because he's doing my boxing. Monty, calm down with the beard stuff, buddy. We're talking about Celtic. We're not talking about beard. Joey, relax yourself, big chief.
He's an angry man.
He's relentless. Go and join Postecoglou and Spurs. We never stop and all that. You certainly never stop giving people shit. But I mean, going by the celebrations at West Ham and the dancing in the dressing room, did you see that? I thought it was so funny. I thought it was so funny.
Man.
And he was just giving us stacks. He was even singing that Bowen song about Danny Dyer and all. Like he's mad in the head. But I think for Scotland, he is probably the prime candidate. If
just seen Rossi's coming.
if Steve Clarke leaves, I think he's built for that Scottish road, and I really do. Monty, it's all banter, by the way. Don't take it serious. But in terms of that, we kind of park Moisey to one side. We'll move on to another outsider that's been banded about. We'll have a wee look. Now, this guy's had a really interesting journey, right? So it's Graham Potter. He started in Sweden with Östersunds. He took them from the 4th tier right up to the top league, won the league. I think he beat Arsenal in the Europa League. He then went to Swansea in the Championship. Brighton liked them very early on, picked them up. I don't think he finished the full season, maybe one full season at Swansea. He came into Brighton, took him up to the Premier League, and he kept him there. He left to go to Chelsea, and then I think a lot of issues happened. Ted Bowley, as we discussed before. Do you know what I mean? It's like he was in charge of the transfers. He was walking into the dressing room doing team talks. He was giving them players he didn't necessarily want. But I like Graham Potter. I really do. And if there was a chance for the Graham Potter to come in, if Rodgers didn't, I would take him in a heartbeat. I think his style of play is similar. Maybe the formation is different, but he's attacking. He has a good philosophy. You don't get Östersunds to the last 32 of the Europa League if you don't have nothing about you. A very small team from Sweden, and then getting Brighton promoted. And obviously the Serbies come in and done a fantastic job taking that ship. But what do you think about Graham Potter?
I think the rumours have went quiet on him. Unfortunately, I think that if it wasn't Rodgers, then he would be very high on my list. I think at Brighton he did a wonderful job, and I like you say, attacking football, and he was fantastic. But I agree with the guys there. I think the likes of Patrick McLaughlin, I think he's bang on. I think the likes of Leeds or Palace or something like that, and the Palace in the Premier League possibly for him would probably be the right move. He couldn't turn down the move to Chelsea, but the circumstances, I don't know why anybody would touch that club with the the fucking beard's got me a talk than the manager situation tonight. It's absolute madness. And I don't know if Potter was in charge of recruitment at Brighton, but his recruitment was absolutely bang on there as well. They've bought and sold on players for hundreds of millions.
This is interesting. If you can see Paul Datt's comment, I would take Potter over Rodgers all day.
Interesting. totally disagree though. No, again, like if it wasn't Rodgers, then he would definitely be near the top of my list. He's obviously got a pedigree. I thought he did a fantastic job at Brighton. Like I say, I don't know if he was in charge of the ins and outs, but he brought in some top players and sold them for
He did.
hundreds and hundreds of millions. So, and it looks like the Caicedo is going to go for hundreds as well. So, if it is him, he's got an eye for talent as well, and he played some good football. So, if it's not Rodgers for me, he would definitely be top of the list. Unfortunately, I think the rumours have went a bit quiet on him, so I don't think we've got a chance. But yeah, when I did see his name, it didn't have me raising my eyebrows because it's one of the other names that would sort of excite in that list because there's not many that do excite me, to be honest.
No, I mean, see, to be fair with Potter, I think one of the things that probably go against us, not too dissimilar to Rodgers, but his connection puts us more in favour, obviously, with Celtic before in the past. I think Potter's stock in England's still really high. I think he could maybe walk into, like, probably a bit drastic here, like an Arsenal if Arteta left, that type of club. So he'd be looking for a big payday. And I know he got that severance money from Chelsea, so he's not short of a few quid. I just think for me, from an outside point of view, if we fail to get Rodgers, I would be going all out to get him. I really would. I think he would make a big difference to the team. And as you referenced it there, Willie, his recruitment at Brighton was incredible. He signed players like Caicedo for like 3 million quid from Ecuador, and now he's getting sold for 88 million plus. I know there's a bit of premium added onto that because of the fees in England, but it's still a profit for Brighton, and it's incredible to see. Let's have a wee look at the comments.
Just to come back as well on Potter, the only thing I would say, but again, pretty much every manager that's coming to us is going to be the same. If he gets another top job or mid-table job in England, he's jumping ship straight away as well. I think Potter.
Yeah.
So
I think Patrick said that
negative. Aye.
Yeah, I think Potter's wired like that. I can see him wanting to stay there. And then Danny comes in, the new Leeds owners will go all out for Potter. I know they're getting bought over. And he brings his own Corvo nicely to the next guy is Knutsen. That may get my wee picture have of him as well, just to merge this all together. Now, obviously we all know him from being the manager of Bodo Glimt. I know that we're kind of holding on to the fact that he tactically outwitted Postecoglou over 2 games and all that type of stuff. And I kind of argued with Ross or disagreed with Ross, saying that he thought Bodo Glimt maybe or the Celtic team had better players at that time. I can't quite remember, but I was saying that they were further on in that kind of tactical journey and the evolution of that style of play. Maybe that's why we didn't quite get the grips with them at that time. And they had a full month off and they came back, and I mean, it could have been easy 8-9 sometime in that game. They were all over us like a rash, and they had some cracking players like Solbakken. If you remember him on the left hand side, he was an absolute machine. He was like 31 or something.
Aye.
And then
I remember one of the fullbacks being quality as well.
Yeah, and you look at Knutsen, and for me, this is my outside favourite. If Rodgers feels this would be who I would be going all out to get as well. I know I said Potter there, but if I was talking about someone with that just philosophy to all out attack and fitness of players and athletic players, this is your guy. And you look at his journey, I think he managed in the lower leagues. Bodo Glimt took a chance on him in the second tier, took them up in 2019, won back-to-back Norwegian championships, got them to a semi-final of a quarter-final of a Europa competition. That's a great record for a minnow. But then in the back of my mind again, I'm thinking, is it a Ronnie Delia type thing? You know, he won the top league with Strong Godset. They were like a relegation team. Ronnie took over, put them up to first place. Then he got his move to us, albeit he was meant to be the assistant. But with Knutsen, I think, I don't know, that tie we played them, I know that's all we really have to go off here, but his team did look really good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about the guy, but I didn't know much
and
about
also,
Ange.
he beat Roma. That's a good shout.
Yeah. What I would say about and that's what I don't like about what I've seen on social media about this guy is it's a lot of people are basing it on these 2 games that we played them. What I would say about the 2 games is Ange's team he was just starting the building blocks at that point for me. It's not the team that we see this season. I think it would have been a different game if it was. Also, the second leg, Ange made like 9 or 10 changes. It was as if he just gave away the tie because he was like, we're just going to concentrate in the league, and we got battered. But saying that, they were excellent. Like you say, the football they played, it was, I remember saying it, I can remember in the group chat watching at the time and saying, this is the football that Ange wants to play. And they're doing it to us and absolutely destroying us, because they did at the time. They played excellent football. So again, going back to Maresca, it's the same sort of thing for me, that he's a he's digging in again. He's he plays the same style of football, and it would seem sort of seamless for him to come in. But I'm with you. It's sort of like a Ronnie signing for me. And I mean, I don't know the standard of the league, but if you're taking teams that are relegation candidates one year and winning the league the next year, I don't know what that says about the standard of the league. And it's a totally different, Celtic are a totally different animal.
Yep.
You can have experience and whatever you want, but this is a different ball game. And saying that, everything I've heard is positive about him. It's difficult to comment when I don't know too much, but for what I've seen, the style of play, his achievements, I mean, you can't. But
see, in a naive way, Willie,
the achievements. But you're talking about. I understand what you're saying.
No, but I want to ask you a question. Maybe this is ignorant, but is it? You pointed out fairly early on. Is it? I mean, no disrespect in the region league of Bodo Glimt, but should we be attracting a higher caliber applicant for the manager's role, and the likes of Knutsen, the likes of Maresca? Is that what you're thinking here, or?
I would say so, where we are now, but at the same time, I mean, I would have said that when we brought Ange in, and he worked absolute wonders for us. So I wouldn't say that. Thanks, Pam. Some positive feedback there. That's nice. Thanks. I wouldn't be. I was going to say I wouldn't be disappointed. I would, because I'm going to be disappointed. I've said it 100 times since podcast. I'll say it 100 times before we finish. I'm going to be disappointed if it's no Rodgers. But the disappointment, I'll quickly turn if it is somebody else that comes in, and then we'll fully back the manager like we always do. And I mean, this guy's pedigree and his achievements so far, you can't knock it. And like I say, the little football that I've seen, it's very attractive attacking football like we've been used to the last few years. So again, if it wasn't Rodgers, I don't think he'd be too far from the top of my list either, out of the names that are there. But I would be, thanks Monty, I would be disappointed.
Monty's on your team. Monty's never on my team. I think it's just a natural thing.
But there's a positive, Monty.
Yes, go on.
Oh, there's
but
no.
Go on, Monty. But I think as well, you make a good point. I was just looking, bring it into the song. I was just looking at the team there that would actually start at the home leg. I mean, Joe Hart, Ranovic, Vickers, Starfelt, Taylor, McGregor, O'Reilly, Abada, Rodgers, Jada, Maeda, and we got slapped 3-1.
I agree. But you see, if you check the team for the second leg, though, there was about 9 or 10 changes.
Let me see.
Didn't play any of the guys.
Second leg.
Second leg. I remember thinking it anyway.
Do you want to hear it?
Aye, go on then.
Joe Hart, Ralston, Welsh, Starfelt, Scales, Rodgers, Beaton, O'Reilly, Maeda, Giacomakis, and James Forrest.
Aye, he made about 9 changes. I remember that at the time.
It's a hard one in Knutsen. I mean, Monty's in again. It's a hard one with Knutsen because we all look at him from the outside and we're like, he's got a good pedigree, but at the end of the day, he hasn't left Norway. And I can't remember who said it. So if you want to come back in, someone said it's like he gets a nosebleed when he thinks about leaving Norwegian football. Maybe he's just settled there, and maybe he just wants to be there and be a good team of Bodo Glimt, or move on to Rosenborg or Copenhagen, things like that. You never know. Some people are settled in their environment. But you look at it as well. Corvo, that first team should be humping Bodo. 100%. But I think you have to look at this too, as Willie alluded to, in our tactical evolution on their hands, we were nowhere near it. We were nowhere near playing football in the first season. Same could be argued in the second season. That's a podcast for another day. So we'll move on to the last one. Now, this is another guy. Again, he's young and up and coming. He was a coach at Manchester United, somewhere else as well. He worked under, was it Van Hal and a few others. He's made the move to the Ipswich under his own name, his own right, and that's Kieran McKenna. Again, another left field shout. And I look at this guy.
It's Gary Lineker.
I look at him, and again, it's a bit like Knutsen in a way for me. Is Ipswich team scored over 130 goals in League One to get promoted to the Championship? It was record breaking, all out attack. He's 34, I believe. This is his first management role. Too early, Willie. He's been touted around. I think he's about 25-1. So there's been a few bets being made on him. He's probably no chance of getting the job, eh?
I don't see it, but I mean, if one of the favourites is Maresca, then this guy's had no more. This guy's got far more experience than Maresca has. And then you look at Knutsen. I mean, I don't know the Norwegian league, but is League One in England a similar standard? I don't know. It seems like he's playing attacking football. I mean, Ipswich aren't the team they once were, but it looks like he's bringing back the glory days. And like you said, he scored an unbelievable amount of goals this season. So I don't think it's any more ridiculous than a Maresca or a Knutsen for me. Well, maybe not so much Knutsen. I mean, his pedigree, that's a bit harsh. But Maresca, how I don't understand how it would be any less or any different to Maresca just because he's working under Pep. I mean, this guy worked under managers at Man United, hasn't he?
Yep.
But I think that it's nailed on there. That sounds like one of. Aye, no, I know. I understand that. Aye, fuck off, Ross. I'd fault the nutsack sounds like one of Ted Lasso's set pieces.
Mate, say Ted Lasso.
I finished it last night, man. I stayed up to about 1 o'clock because I couldn't turn it off.
Brilliant. Anyway, I loved it.
I'd take Ted Lasso in before I'd take McKenna and Maresca.
Well, I mean, you look at Ted Lasso's Richmond team, Championship up to the Premier League, finished second in his second season behind Man City. I mean, he's got players like your man, Jamie Tart and all, like, so
I know.
Bring them guys in. But nah, that was a good series. But for me, Kieran McKenna, again, it goes back to the time Ronnie Daly was about. There are project times. That's the time to be a project club and build something for future years. Then you could take your chance with them types of guys. There was no pressure. There was a certain club was in the Championships dying on life support, whatever you want to say. I mean, but that was the time maybe to take a chance on a younger type coach. But in a nutshell, Willie, we're 58 minutes in with 95 people watching live, which is incredible. Thanks everybody for your comments and stuff. Who would be your ultimate pick for the manager? I mean, it's going to be easy, but just spell it out for me one more time.
Go and put that up there. Oh no, go and put Ross.
Paul McKenna. Who's Paul McKenna? Is that your mate or something?
No, that's the fucking hypnotist boy, is it not? He could just
right, okay.
The keeper, the opposing keeper, and tell him to move it the way. Rodgers isn't going to go to the Championship. No chance. I don't see that. Aye, in a nutshell, like I've said, the only name that excites me is bringing back Brendan. Get the cans, a big bag of cans. I just want Brendan back. Like I said, it's the only one. It's the only one that I feel like wouldn't be a step backwards. I think he could work wonders with the young guys. Like I've said before, I think that as much as Ange was like brilliant tactician, and I don't think on a personal level he was on a one-on-one level for what I gathered for player interviews and the rest of it. And they didn't need to be. You don't need it. But I feel like the likes of Abada and Jota could work wonders with Rodgers having the arm round the shoulder. Like I said, when he first came in, he turned James Forrest into the whipping boy, the fans into an absolute monster. So I think he could come in.
Around his career.
Yeah, I think he could come in. I think he could carry on what Ange's been doing. I think with a better relationship with the board this time round, like Ange's had, I think he'd do a wonderful job. Could possibly bring back Musa.
Can I just say something, by the way? Jed Thomas come in here. I've seen what he's seen probably on Twitter. Understand Leeds' managerial process is nearing an end. I'm told Rodgers and Daniel Farke are the top two candidates. Now 2-horse race interviews. Rodgers was today. Farke was tomorrow. 49ers, who are the new investors in the club, are going to invest heavily and help the club return to the top league. This guy in question has 32,000 followers on Twitter, and he's a journalist apparently. So, I mean, do you think that's going to weigh into this, or what do you think?
I can't see Brendan taking a job in the Championship. I just can't.
Big investment, Willie. The M49ers are rich apparently. This new investment club.
It's no Celtic though.
I know. I mean,
I think if the rumours are true and they've spoken to him and he's getting the same backing for the board, I think it's a no-brainer, and I think he signs. And I think that's, again, like I said, it's the only one that excites me. I think the shortlist it's actually shocking for me. I was really expecting a lot more names.
Comment of the night.
Well done, mate. You've got to bring Rodgers home, man. What are you thinking? What are you thinking now? Because I think you've changed your mind about 14 times since last week.
I have, mate. I'm so undecided. I'm looking at this.
It's understandable. There's been, I think I shared a post yesterday, and it was 16 names linked, and I think there's been another fucking 2 or 3 since then. There's like upwards of 20 plus names being linked with us. Heads are mushing all over the place. Absolutely, mate. Stephen O'Hay get the boat out again.
Oh wow! But for me, like, I don't know, mate. Seeing obviously the rumours and stuff tonight that Jed may be aware of and stuff, and obviously we've been linked with Daniel Farke and things like that. And there's, again, it's gathered at a pace on Twitter. I'm reading it all over the place here, so I don't know if it's true or not. And it'll be interesting to say the least. I want Rodgers back. I think I've said it to you guys in the chat and stuff. And yeah, we know the past and things, but he's the best candidate. As you said, Willie, it's a really underwhelming candidate list. You thought we would attract more than that, or maybe Celtic's being lazy in the recruitment process. We'll find out probably in the coming days and weeks, hopefully sooner rather than later. But again, as I said, the Leeds rumour is all over Twitter. I'm reading about 6 threads of it right now.
Man. I think if they stayed up, if they stayed up and they were getting that investment, I'd be thinking possibly, but I can't see him taking that in the Championship. No way.
No, listen. Again, I don't either. But we'll go back to percentages. High 1 to 100, 0 to 100. How confident are you he's going to be the new manager of Celtic Football Club?
Rodgers at this moment in time.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to say how confident you are and what you want. I want 100%, but I would say about, I don't know. You know me, I fucking hate rumours. I don't believe a word that's said.
Put your fishing rod out. Right. Come on.
All right, 78%.
What a specific number. See, to be fair, I was going to say 7.
I don't think you finished, did you? Did you say Rodgers?
Yeah, I'm 70% he will be confirmed, but again, we'll have to be wary of these links with other people. My Uncle John's in 10%, Ross is in 80%, Tony Daly, he's a smart choice. I don't think it's easy. I'll tell you something. I think go for it.
Right. Rodgers said in that interview in 2019 that he would 100% come back. He didn't know if he was received right, then he would come back and all the rest of it. He says, but these things, it's all about timing. If it is true, and he is one of the candidates, and he's talked to Celtic, and they have offered whatever, and vice versa, and he doesn't come, that's it. There's no way he'll be back ever again. He'll never ever get offered that again.
We need to be decisive here. We cannot be chasing. We need to be decisive.
Right. See if we have another fucking Eddie Howe summer, I swear to God, honest to God, I'll go to a farm and fucking punch cows or something. I'll be raging.
Can I go with you? I mean, we can't have that for 2 reasons, right? With Champions League coming up, the players need to be settled coming into pre-season instead of having fucking John Kennedy putting the cones out. I know he does that, but you need the manager behind him. But yeah, if Rodgers is indecisive, I would say pull the plug. But if he's all in, as Thomas Burns said there, you get him in, you build the team, and you look forward to next season. But Willie, 98 at the end of the podcast. Have you enjoyed it?
Pleasure. Absolutely brilliant, mate. A pleasure as always. I'm looking forward to Friday now because I'm back on Friday.
Yeah, we're doing the end of season review Friday, definitely, aren't we? That's set in stone. The reason why we didn't do it tonight because I think we better with a few more people involved and we'll get different takes, and obviously people in the comments and stuff like that. But yeah, looking forward to Friday. Maybe by Friday we might have to do an emergency podcast in terms of who's coming in. And look at that, we're hitting 100. 100's in. That's incredible. But to everyone watching along, stay well and keep safe. Hail, hail.